I talked to the police the second they called. I called them right back. We were in Orlando on vacation with my kids at Disney.
Hello and welcome to True Crime Rocket Science, the most authentic voice in true crime. In this episode, which is essentially part 2 to the previous one, we're going to deal with highlights from the transcript. And I'll provide a link to the full transcript in the description, originally from ABC 7. If you want to follow it there, it does seem like it's been removed from the original site, but I'll provide a link to the web archive if you want to follow it there. Also want to thank many of you for your comments, even some of your criticisms in the previous video, just bringing up a lot of issues related to family dynamics that that really help us understand what is going on here. For example, that it appears that Brian first stopped at his sister's house and then called his parents. A commenter, DD, said the parents then cancelled their camping trip. There's also been quite a lot of speculation. Do you think that Brian's parents wanted Brian to get married? And that is certainly something that Gabby's mother, Nicole Schmidt, said, that she was very excited, meaning Roberta was very excited about Brian getting married. And bear in mind, her eldest daughter was already married, and I'm not quite sure when she was married, but I think her one son is around about, he looks to be about 6 to 8 years old. If it's 8, then Brian is now the age that his sister got married. That'll probably be confirmed in the fullness of time. So once again, thanks for your comments. Keep them coming. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do. You can click on the light blue icon on the bottom right of your screen. Like, share, leave a comment, and let's get started. So the full transcript is quite a lot to go through. It's over 1,100 words. I'm only going to deal with the highlights here. As I say, you're welcome to read the full transcript, but the devil is in the details. What you really want to do is know what to interpret and what is of significance. So let's go right to the beginning, starting with the question from the reporter from ABC 7. She says, so just kind of tell us what you were saying, just your reaction as a whole to everything. And Cassie then responds, and this is just a highlight of her response. She says, all I want is this be just a big misunderstanding. This is such a great question from the reporter, open-ended, vague. It allows Cassie to choose a line of reasoning to gravitate towards whatever answer she wants to give, and that then reveals her thought process. Do you see that? The word I want to highlight here is misunderstanding. There was misunderstanding during the Moab incident, which benefited Brian, and supposedly a misunderstanding after Brian disappeared, giving him a head start, which also benefited Brian. Does misunderstanding benefit Brian or not? And how does that play into the events at the Spread Creek campsite? Coincidentally, the laundry lawyer has defended Cassie, saying she didn't lie about talking or seeing her brother in September. It was just a misunderstanding. Everything has been one big misunderstanding. Now, that may have been fairly credible and fairly believable when Cassie made the statement, which was before Gabby's remains were found in Wyoming. But now it's definitely far beyond just a misunderstanding. If Brian did speak to his family when he returned, and we don't know if he did, but if he did, I wouldn't be surprised if his story to them went something like that, there was just a misunderstanding between himself and Gabby, and that led to them becoming separated. Perhaps she didn't have her phone, or her phone was, the battery was had died, and that led to her leaving, and he wasn't able to find her, and he wasn't sure where she left him, or just left to go somewhere. But after misunderstanding her and trying to find her and then eventually giving up, he just came home. I wouldn't be surprised if his story went something like that. Then the next question from the reporter, how close have you guys been over the years, you were saying? And that's the clip that I played right in the beginning. Now the highlight from that is, been in our life. Cassie responds, for the last 2 years, Gabby's been in our life, right? There's so much to draw out of that, but those words, our life, seems to me to be an indicator that Cassie might know that Gabby's no longer alive. Bear in mind, now we know that she's no longer alive, but at the time, nobody knew. They were still looking for her. This interview with Cassie was recorded on the 17th of September. And then you may remember the FBI gave their press conference on the 19th of September, basically 2 days later, saying that the remains that they found were consistent with Gabby, with a description of Gabby, and then later confirmed. Interestingly, on the 20th of September, the Laundrie family attorney was asked to cancel a press conference pursuant to a request from the FBI. And this is immediately after the remains were found, but there was initially some uncertainty about whether they were hers. So consider the import of Cassie's words by saying, been in our life. I think she's contrasting this inwardly, internally, to something that she's internalizing, possibly that Gabby's no longer in their life or going to be in their life, right? Bear in mind, it's a fairly open question. How close have you guys been over all these years? And then these words, been in our life, comes out of that. It's not answered by, oh, we were very close. We got along really well. We loved Gabby. It's been in our life. Those are the words, those are the semantics that were chosen. Next question. And you were saying you've talked to police because people have been saying, okay, the family from your end, you've communicated with police. Let's listen to Cassie's response to this.
Yes, I talked to the police the second they called. I called them right back. We were in Orlando on vacation with my kids at Disney, and we came back to this.
So bearing in mind this apparent visit from Brian, or perhaps seeing Brian in the early days of September, her response to the question regarding the police is, she says, yes, I talked to the police the second they called. I called them right back. In other words, saying that there was no delay, that she's been cooperating. And then she talks about being in Orlando on vacation with the kids at Disney. And when she says, we came back to this, there's definitely a sense of kind of resentment in a way. She doesn't seem very happy about what is going on. Who would be? I think here Cassie may be acknowledging that she only spoke to police because the police called her. She didn't reach out to them, meaning on behalf of Gabby. Bear in mind, at that time, Gabby was staying with her parents, and she was in a weird way Gabby's sister, right? Gabby was in a weird way an aunt-to-be, an aunt-in-law in a way, a future aunt to her children. And so you could imagine her seeing Gabby as a family member and wanting to find out how she was subsequent to Gabby disappearing, and in that limbo period where we didn't know what was going on. Did she call the police? She only responded to the police calling her. She also offers this nifty tidbit of information to say effectively that the cops couldn't get hold of her initially because they were in Orlando at Disneyland. Now, I don't know whether that means she called them when they arrived back from Disneyland, or when they called she wasn't home and so she was somewhere else. When she says, I talked to the police the second they called, I'm not sure, and then she says, I called them right back. I'm not sure how that makes sense. I mean, if you talk to the police the second they called, then when they called, you answered, if you know what I mean. If you talk to them the second they called, you would not need to call them right back. On the other hand, if you say, I called them right back, well, did you call them right back immediately? Maybe she did. I guess we'll find out in the fullness of time regarding that aspect. I would like to see the trip to Disneyland verified, because the movements of the family, I think, are relevant possibly to Brian and Brian's movements prior to him disappearing, and perhaps subsequently. It's difficult to say. But I'd like to see that verified and also get clarity on when the police called and when Cassie called them back. Was it 1 day later? Was it 2 or 3 or 6? Or was it like a minute later? What was the story? And then the next question from the ABC7 reporter is, what's your hope right now, along with the rest of the world?
I hope she's safe and good and just out there unaware and safe.
So if you go to the link, you're welcome to look at the original footage at around about 53 seconds into the 3-minute 43 seconds extended clip. And there's a lot of emotion here. It's probably something you want to watch a couple of times. You see the folds of skin below her right eye. It's the left eye from the perspective of the looking at her. You see a little twitch under the eye, which is sometimes a nervous twitch based on stress. It is also sometimes you can have a twitch for no reason at all, really. But there's a twitch there. Her voice, there's an inflection to her voice. The tone goes up quite a few to quite a few kind of high notes. And then there's also physical gesturing where she sort of lifts her hands in front of the camera and sort of shakes them in emphasis, right? And just think about, in very broad terms, think about what is being asked about here. Hope. What are your hopes right now? It's an excellent question because she's not being pinned down to, what are you hoping about Gabby or what are you hoping about Brian? It is a very general question which allows her to actually go there in her heart, to actually think about the question, to think about what she's really feeling. And no wonder there's quite a lot of emotion here, because a lot of what is going on right now, if you're a Laundry family member, is dealing with hope and fear. You can imagine how conflicted they must feel and what they might be hoping for. And the same applies to Brian. What kind of hope is going on in his heart right now, as well as fear? So Cassie's response is, I hope she's safe and good and just out there unaware and safe. This is the second time she's sort of touching on this idea of a misunderstanding of not knowing something even though something is going on, right? And so that's the word I really want to highlight. Of all the things she could talk about, she's saying with hope is the sense of unawareness, right? I think it's a crazy statement to make, bearing in mind that I think it was made around Friday, September 17th. So you need to remember the context. When Cassie gave this interview, it was at least 17 days since Gabby had gone missing, and more likely closer to 3 weeks. Would Gabby not realize, just think about this logically and sensibly and practically, would Gabby not realize that she was missing for 3 weeks? When her story had gone not only national but international. So imagine Gabby is out there or was out there hiking or camping or something. Do you think after 3 weeks she would somehow just be completely unaware of what was going on with her? You might think that is possible. But do you think she would be so unaware to have no contact with anyone during that space of time, not even her own family, or anyone else who would be aware of the news and pass it on to her? So it's not just her being in a vacuum of unawareness. She also needs to not have contact with anyone, including her own family, for them to tell her, well, this is what's going on. Sorry, that is not likely at all. It doesn't pass the smell test. I think the word unaware also has application to Cassie herself. Did people know Cassie was Brian's sister, or were they unaware? And think about other things like Cassie's surname. Cassie's surname isn't actually Laundry. Then there's also the fact that she spoke to the media on September 17th. Think about the timing of that. It reminds me of, she could theoretically have spoken to the media as early as the 11th, immediately after Brian sort of went missing, to also say, well, I wonder where Gabby is, kind of thing. It reminds me a little of Candace Wells Summer's mother, only coming forward 2 weeks after Summer's disappearance. There's a sense that she doesn't actually want to come forward, but why wouldn't you want to talk to the media if it was about finding people close to you, especially when everyone else is looking for them? So why wouldn't you want to talk to the media unless you didn't want them found? Next question. And you were saying in terms of the body cam, just like you looked at the body camera video, looking at your brother, just kind of what was knowing them, you were saying just kind of nothing was crazy. And this is her response.
No, I didn't find anything peculiar other than it was just a regular couple spat gone wrong.
A lot of people have found things peculiar with the Moab incident. The media, social media, even the Moab cops. So the fact that Cassie doesn't find anything peculiar, that in itself is, I think, a little bit peculiar. Of course, a lot has happened since, a lot has come to light since Cassie gave this interview, and one's got to bear that in mind as well. Next question.
Yeah, they were talked about it for a while, and they loved to travel. They sent us postcards along the way. They really kept in touch with the kids through a video chat and their phones, and showed them all the sites, because my boys love to travel too. So they love all the Utah sites and everything they've been sending.
So when you're doing statement analysis, there are a couple of perspectives that you can take. You can look at the semantics almost in isolation. You can look at the body language. You can look at the tone of the voice. You can also look at very basic practical things such as how many words, how much is said in response to a specific question compared to how little is volunteered regarding something else, right? Juxtaposing that. And so in terms of this question, there's quite a lot of, whether you want to say word salad or just quite a lot of response to saying, it's something that's not necessarily very important here within the context of some significant developments that have a bearing on the law and on criminal culpability, perhaps. And so in this sort of neutral area, Cassie's got quite a lot to say. And, to her credit, you might say, well, she's been informed by the laundry lawyer and perhaps even law enforcement not to speak too much about the details of the case. But yes, she is speaking on camera. So in any event, the question was, did the whole family know they were going on this big trip? And how exciting it was. Talk to us about that. And so Cassie says, yeah, they talked about it for a while and they love to travel. So you must bear in mind, it wasn't as though Gabby and Brian left on the summer epic and Roberta and Chris, Brian's parents, didn't know about it. They were actually building the van on the driveway of the laundry home. The neighbors saw Brian sort of putting together, I think, a cabinet or something, but just sort of retrofitting the van. This was going on for a long time. So you can imagine you have the, I don't know, even say premeditation, but you have the red carpet rolling towards July 2nd when they departed. And during that time, the family members would have been all too aware of what was going on. They would have known what they planned to do. They would have known where they planned to go. They would have been aware of the status of their relationship, of their goals, of their plans, of their dreams, of everything that was going on, about the feelings that were going on. And so they would have also been invested in the events in real time. They would have also have looked at their social media. They would also have sent messages about where they were and are you safe and all that kind of thing. And so you can imagine, although there are these texts apparently between Gabby and her mother, what about between Brian and other people? Now, he does kind of come across as someone who doesn't have a phone and doesn't really text, but this whole idea of staging text suggests somebody who can communicate if they wish to. So although Brian is quite a reserved fellow, you've got to bear in mind that he's participating in social media. He's got his own Instagram. He's capable of being quite effusive and quite effective in his communication. And if you think of it in terms of where she says, they sent us postcards along the way, and I underlined the words, they really kept in touch. They, not just Gabby. And then their phones, right, with the kids through video chat and their phones, showing them all the sites. They love all of Utah and everything that they send them, right? Now, I don't know if it's true, strictly speaking, that they sent us postcards. Brian may actually have played postman and brought some of these postcards home on the trip, because only some of them have got stamps on them, right? So Brian may effectively have given these postcards. It could have been during the break, I think the 17th to the 23rd of August, when he flew to Florida from Salt Lake City. He could have taken the postcards with him then. It's difficult to be absolutely certain, but that also just shows him communicating with his family members directly. And if he communicated directly, would he not communicate indirectly as well? And so, if Cassie got hold of them, these postcards, Brian handing them to her, we don't know if he did, but if he did, well, then she could have seen him as early as late August. And perhaps, if that's true, then perhaps she knew about the Moab incident. Perhaps Cassie knew about the Moab incident and kind of got a version from Brian then already. Well, I see we are at almost 22 minutes, so I'm not going to take it further than that. I will be doing a third part to this series where we're looking into Cassie and analyzing some of the statements and behaviorisms from the extended interview. So look out for part 3. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you guys next time.